What we have here is a rare subject matter. A Malaise-era American land yacht from the 1970s. And guys, you have no idea how long I waited for this. This has been like the longest pre-order I've sat through. Of course, I didn't pre-order myself since there was no incentive to do so, unlike automobile, where it's the only way to get the car at MSRP. But in this car's case, between the first time it was announced at the end of 2020, I think, and until it actually started shipping out by the end of May 2022, the wait was almost 2 years. And considering for how long this car was on hold, I genuinely thought that they'd never release it. Because this is the Mark V by MCG. And back in 2021, the company that owns MCG, the German website Model Car World, had already released a Continental Mark IV, but under their resin BOS brand for twice the price of this one. And the 4 looks very similar to the 5, so I was like, will they really release the Mark V for half the price in diecast? And if they really will, who's going to buy the 4 if you're just smart and will wait for the Mark V? 'Cause, fun fact, back in 2016, 2017, they had released the Mark V, but also in resin by BOS. It was black and had a beige Lando top, and was twice the price of this one. There's a video of it here on YouTube uploaded by the channel FC Camargue Garage. In certain areas it had a higher detail level. For example, the cornering lamps didn't have black pegs like on this one, but its windows were foil instead of hard plastic like on this diecast MCG, so I'm happy they re-released an expensive resin BOS in the form of a diecast MCG. And I hope they do that in the future for more out-of-stock BOS land yachts. But enough talk. Let's get this baby out of the box. This is what they call a personal luxury vehicle. When I first unboxed this model, it was covered in a very thin, oily type of film, so that's completely normal, and if that's the case on your model, don't be afraid. I just had to spend 10 minutes cleaning that off with a microfiber cloth. And once you've done that, and be very careful not to damage the hood ornament, you'll have a great looking model. 1979 was the last model year for Lincolns of this size before downsizing started in the 1980s. In fact, downsizing had already started at GM by the mid-70s, but Lincoln, or its parent company Ford in this case, held on for a couple more years thinking the after effects of the 1973 oil crisis would pass, until all hopes for market recovery were dashed when the second oil crisis started in 1979. 'Cause you know what happened in 1979, right? Exactly. So this was the last truly big Mark series. And this Lincoln is a true mark in automotive history. Together with the Cadillac Eldorado, these cars were the flagships of a category called the personal luxury car. The four-door version of this car was called the town car. You know, some people just like to call this the Continental Coupe, saying the Lincoln Continental was something else. But we have a giant Lincoln hood ornament right here at the front, and an even bigger one on the trunk lid, leaving no doubts about who made this car. Now, various editions of the Mark V were released and named after famous fashion designers from back in the day, like Bill Blass, Emilio Pucci, Hubert de Givenchy, and the watch manufacturer Cartier. And depending on the model year, whether it was 1977, 1978, or 1979, the colors would change. Now in this picture, you see Lincoln Mark IVs, not 5s, so the colors are a bit different, but the Bill Blass edition, which you can see on the right, was also dark blue on the Mark IV as well. My first question when I saw this car was, where are the headlights? And when I found out that its headlights were hidden behind these panels, I initially didn't like it. 'Cause when you have this big Rolls-Royce style waterfall grille in the middle, and nothing on either side, it just looked a bit too antique in terms of design. But over time I started to appreciate the unique design, and considering that other cars of the time, including the famous Dodge Charger, also had their headlights hidden behind panels that would flip, I got used to it. When the headlights are open, as you can see in this picture, it kind of reminds me of a Rolls-Royce Camargue that was also a product of this era, but which didn't have pop-up headlights. So, I have absolutely no complaints in terms of detail level when it comes to the front of this model, because it's just excellent. I mean, this gives easily any Rolls-Royce a run for its money. We'll start off with this license plate right here. This blue Bill Blass edition comes with the Washington, D.C. license plate, nation's capital. The front grille is immaculately done. The chrome is of high quality, and then right in the middle you can see the red Mark V badge, and on top of it we have the beautiful photo-etched, thin and accurately proportioned Lincoln emblem. On the driver's side headlamp cover, you can see that it says Continental in a raised photo-etched lettering. But my absolute favorite highlight of the Mark V are these cornering lamps. And MCG's attention to detail doesn't cease to amaze me. Look at that. They even printed the Lincoln logos on the transparent indicator glass. I mean, how cool is that on a, what people would like to remind us is a rather low-end sealed manufacturer? Because remember, MCG is pretty much where it starts. Automobile is only the same price if you pre-order 2 months in advance. KK Scale, CMR, GT Spirit are all more expensive, and BOS is twice the price, and it only goes upwards with cult scale models and so on. Now let's talk a little bit about the engine of this beast, and also the limitations of the model. This is a completely sealed model. Absolutely nothing opens on this model, so unfortunately we don't get to do anything cool with it. but keep in mind the price, at least the retail one when it originally came out. And this is a completely limited quantity model. Like if Burago made this 50,000 times, I'm sure they'd be able to afford a fully openable casting. Or if you're ready to pay 400 euros, like with the 1990s Lincoln that Xiaoguang or whatever it has made, you will get a fully opening casting with limited production numbers. But if you want limited production numbers and keep the price down, then sealed is the only way to go. So, in terms of engine, these had a V8, either a 400 Cleveland, which was a 6.6 liter, or a 385 Lima, which was a 7.5 liter, absolutely massive, but producing only a crappy 179 or 208 horsepower due to the emissions regulations of that time. And here's a look at the side of the 1977 Lincoln Mark V. And you can see that behind the B pillar and all the way up to the C pillar, there's like a beige section of the roofline. And this configuration is called a Landau top. This used to be quite popular in the late 1970s. But not just that. Check this out. Opera windows. Literally the only diecast car in my collection that has them. Yat Ming's 1957 and Maisto's 2002 Ford Thunderbird also have them, but they're not in my collection. And on the glass, you can see the Lincoln logo carved, and right next to it, it says Cartier, I think. So that's really cool. One easy way to tell the Mark V Lincoln from the similar-looking predecessor, the Mark IV, is that the Mark V had these side vents that the Mark IV didn't have. And now let's take a closer look at the wheels. Now these wheels are called turbine wheels. Another fun fact is that this was the first car in America that had four-wheel disc brakes. Back in 1977. You can see that MCG gave the tire walls thin white walls, although they could have painted it a little more symmetrically. However, the turbines are like the rims are done really well. I mean, this looks really high quality and is arguably one of my favorite retro rims out there. It's got the Lincoln logo in the middle, and what more is there to say? It's just great. And right next to the wheels, you can see that we have these cornering lamps. And these were necessary because, I mean, sure, you have your indicator over here, the orange one, but this lamp would come on when you started to turn with this giant boat of a car, because the headlights were covered by these protruding edges and their light would simply not spill out very far to the sides of the car. So you needed these extra sideways sitting fog lamps, as I'd like to call them, to be able to see properly. The mirrors are made out of chrome and look pretty good. So no complaints from me there. The Bill Blass edition is known for this golden trim that starts at the front and then runs along the side of the car all the way to the back. So that looks pretty nice. And then over here we have another turn signal, and this is just painted on, however. And then over here is, of course, the fuel filler cap. And here's a look at the back of the Lincoln Continental Mark V. And the back looks absolutely amazing as well. I think that MCG did a great job here. We'll start off with the license plate, which is of course the same one as in the front. Nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And then on both sides, you can see that MCG actually provided us with two reverse lamps, and these are separate plastic pieces, which look great. Above the rear license plate, you can see that we have a three-dimensional Lincoln logo. And this actually doubles as the cover for the trunk lock. On the real car, you can push this to the side and then you'll be able to unlock the trunk and open it. And then we have here what's called a spare tire hump. You'd think that if you open the trunk, this is where the spare tire would be, right? But nope. It would be further inside the trunk, and this was just a design element. It says Continental on it. The taillights are done very well. They have no pegs in them, and they look just like the real tail lamps, so no complaints there. And then we have these two additional reverse lights, and they're also separate pieces, and on top of the right one you can see that it says Mark V in photo-etched lettering as well. Rear windshield has defroster lines, so that's worth mentioning. And now let's take a look at the interior of the 1977 Continental Mark V. And the interior is pretty interesting because if you pay close attention, you can actually see that it says Challenger on this dashboard. I mean, what the hell, MCG? Why does it say Challenger? Did you recycle something? Wow. Other than that, it's done pretty cheaply in the sense that it's just a sticker for the dashboard, although you can see a little silver button for the glove compartment underneath. That is a separate piece. If you ignore that little Challenger thing, the rest of the interior looks pretty nice, considering how much detail they put into the main instrumentation right there. The seats, let's take a look at them first. They are done very nicely, I think, or at least they have some details on them, and they look pretty comfortable, even though they are made out of plastic. Here's a look at the back seats. This is a 2+2 after all. Opera window is right here, right there. So yeah, I mean, the interior looks great in the beige color. There is no roof liner. Here's your rearview mirror. There is no gear shift because this is a 3-speed automatic. And now let's check out the driver's side. And as we do, we can see the steering wheel right there. It even has a Lincoln logo on it, and this is a 2-spoke steering wheel. Of course, there's no airbag in there. And behind it, we get a better glimpse at the instrumentation, and all the way at the left, you can see what's supposed to be a Cartier clock. And then in the middle, we have the other gauges. Under the flash, you can read the gauges a bit better, and they're surrounded by a slate veneer. And here's a look from the passenger side again. You can see that there are black floor pedals. So that's quite detailed, I'd say. I mean, for a sealed MCG, it is a nice interior. And overall, I'd say this is the prettiest MCG ever made. Don't you think? And now taking a look at the bottom of the car, you can see that the detail level is adequate for an MCG. We have a gas tank, the exhaust system partially painted with one muffler, and one exhaust pipe right here. Over here it says Lincoln Continental Mark V, 1977 to 79. Scale 118, and that's about it. Oh, and this grill right here has like a black dot. I don't know if you can see that. And that is like an issue on every single one of these MCGs. That's probably the area where it was attached to a mold and it was like clipped from there. But also cool about this grill is that it continues underneath the bumper, as you can see. Right there. So yeah, awesome stuff. Now let's talk a little bit about flaws. Because the one problem with this MCG line is that the quality control really varies from model to model. This model right here is actually my replacement model. I wanted to do this review a month ago when this car came out at the end of May, but it was delayed by 4 weeks because I didn't notice that on the first car that I purchased, the entire Continental branding on the rear trunk lid was missing. I only realized that like 10 days after I had unboxed the car, but then I had to send it back, and thankfully I got my money back, and I had ordered from the main distributor of this model, which is the parent company of Model Car Group, which is the website modelcarworld.de. And usually they don't have a return policy where they allow you to send something back and they pay the return shipping, but thankfully when I wrote to them and I described everything, they were kind enough to send me a return label, just like CK does. Here's the funny thing though, by the time that my model reached them, they had literally gone out of stock of this blue one. They only had like the golden one and the dark red one. I mean, the main distributor goes out of stock of this one. So I had like a little panic attack right then. But thankfully, I managed to purchase this model from another seller, and that website is called modelauto18.de. So he still had some in stock, and cost around €10 more because I didn't get any discount. I mean, I had like a 10% discount from Model Car Group. So originally I'd paid like €56 and I ended up paying 65 to repurchase the car. And this is the second model, so this one, at least as you saw earlier in the review, does not have that missing Continental script issue at the back. Everything is there. However, this model has its own share of small issues, which I'll show you right in a second. So the bottom line is, if you purchase this model, be prepared for two things. One, it's a completely sealed model, nothing opens, but that is the case for every single MCG brand model. And two, quality control issues. The hood ornament might be crooked on yours. I'd heard some people complain about issues on their rocker panels being sort of split in the middle. Mine doesn't have that. You might have a few scratches on your model, either on the windows, like on this first one that I sent back, or perhaps on the front grille, like here at the top right corner, which was also part of the flaws on the first model that I sent back. Or in this second model's case, you can see that there are some marks in the middle of the hood. Not a nice place to have them. And then on the roof, of course, another good visible place. But perhaps the biggest flaw on this model is that the Lando top has two scratches on the right side. And I've seen others say that, like on the roof section, they've had some issues as well. Thankfully, mine doesn't have that, but like I said, be prepared for those kind of things. And of course, the fact that this is a sealed model means that there will be some dust particles trapped inside the windows, and the only way to get those out would be to unscrew the car and basically clean them from the inside, which should be doable because this is not a really complicated car. So I'm not really bothered about those. Overall, I think that this is still a great model to have, and I'm making this video in July 2022. Not sure if this model will be available a couple of weeks from now, let alone a couple of months, because I feel like this is a great looking display piece in any shelf. So even though it doesn't have like the perfect quality control, it does have a nice exterior detail level. The color is amazing. I love the Blass edition. And boy, do I look forward to driving one of these someday in real life. So I hope you enjoyed my review of the 1/18 scale 1977 Lincoln Continental Mark V in the Blass edition by MCG. And if you're interested in more land yachts like this, I do have a couple others that I've reviewed as well. So make sure to watch those gems from the bygone era. Like this video and subscribe for more content. Take care, have a wonderful day, and this is Imperial Diecast, signing out.